30 minutes of friends talk about everything that matters to women. Welcome to the lounge.
Maria, my daughter, and it was very challenging. Talking about teachers and their jobs is very difficult. Like, could you imagine being a teacher, especially for kindergarten?
No, honestly. No, because it's a serious responsibility. You're talking about children, and then you're not just a teacher, but you're also a mother.
Yeah.
You're also a doctor if possible. You need to be able to have like all kind of lessons for you to take care of a kid.
That's
like even if
right.
your kid is sick, you have to deal with that. It's a huge responsibility,
Right,
and honestly, I'm so grateful for all the teachers out there because they're doing everything, and it's just something to be proud of, honestly.
And also, you can't have a bad day. You know, sometimes you get to work, you're having a bad day, so you just take a corner, you're at your desk, you're not, you know, communicating with your colleagues as much. As a teacher, you can't do that.
You can't do that.
There's a class full of children, especially if they're that young, you're shaping their thoughts, their future, their feelings. That's a lot of pressure.
Yeah, totally agree with you on that. So speaking about that kind of pressure, I'm very sure all of us had that kind of, let's say, journey when it comes into choosing your own career and path and having your dream job. So comparing between, let's say, nowadays and the past when it comes into, let's say, you being young and choosing your own career and thoughts, like tell us about now and then, like did you accomplish your own, let's say, job and career, or is it something different than what you planned for?
To be fair, I think my dreams when I was younger, I don't know why I had like big ambitions. I was like, I'm gonna be everything possible. I'm gonna be an astronaut, I'm gonna be a dancer. I'm gonna be everything possible. But now that I'm older, I think it's just like you mold it into like being a bit realistic.
Yeah.
So the things that I've
Right.
seen on TV, the
So
things
you're
that
not
my
in
friends-
space.
No,
No, okay.
unfortunately. But like this is one of my dreams, to be fair, to be like a TV host, maybe directing. It was still part of the list.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm
So
glad.
things-
I'm glad because space is a bit too far and a bit too risky too.
Absolutely.
Yes.
But what about you guys?
Well, at least for me, because I have a background of studying abroad, like a lot of times in my life. So actually, my senior year in, let's say in high school, I graduated from the US. So I was not here in Kuwait.
Wow.
So I had so many, thoughts if I wanted to continue studying there or what major should I choose. But I ended up here in Kuwait. It was my own decision. And if you guys ask me, like, if you were to go back to the same time, would you have would you take the same decision? I would say yes.
Oh, wow.
I would still come back to Kuwait. And then from there, I decided like, what do I want to study and stuff like that. So I chose to go for media, which is, very similar to what I'm doing here.
Yeah.
So back to your question, but I think, it's very similar. I can say that I am actually working as my dream job because I studied in the media, talking about TV and radio and everything like that. And now being TV host nowadays, I feel it is a realistic dream job,
Yes.
at least.
I think so. I think three of us, or at least me and you, I know,
Yes.
did media, and we did end up, I guess, in my dream job at least. It was my dream job as a child and something I worked towards. And I think I manifested it so much that it happened so easily. Like, I didn't have to, really look for a job in TV. But I think what Hiba's talking about is our dream jobs and our reality. Mine aligned, but now I would rather be doing something else, to be honest, which I would have never thought as a child. Like, mini me would be super happy. We're on TV right now.
I mean, this is where the challenge actually occurs, especially when we're talking about that. A lot of people would say we study so we could fit towards our dream job, and vice versa. A lot of people would say we study, but the job actually comes towards us without us realizing it. Like, do you believe in that? Like, do you believe that you study for your job, or you're actually, let's say, your job actually comes and interfere towards you without you knowing?
Well, Hiba, I think for me, it's actually a bit of both. So I actually studied for my actual, job. Like I studied the major that I am working in currently, and also the other way around. So I feel that
it was all, let's say, all around
like
it.
the job actually, I don't know how to explain it, but I think you kind of get what I'm saying, right?
It's meant to be
Everything
like
worked
that.
out for the best, exactly. And I think it's important to be happy with our jobs. And if we're not, we can always go back and study, right? I feel like it's very doable. I know a lot of people that, did a degree, weren't happy with it or with the job, and ended up going back to university. So I think we're living in a very forgiving time where you can go back and
So
study
true.
when you're over 30 or when you're a mom that has kids. So there's always a way.
It's so true. And things are, as you said, way easier. And the thing is, does it sometimes for me, I think about like dreams and I also think about personalities. Because some people, like, naturally they're fixed. So to them, it's like, oh, that's my dream job. When you do it, it's perfect. That's it. I'm achieving my dreams and everything.
Right.
But for example, for you and I, we're kind of a bit more of, we allow ourselves to like be
Yeah.
open towards other possibilities. So for me, even though I achieved my dream, I think it was never enough for me. I'm like, okay, now I experienced it. What's
Exactly.
next? You know what I mean? It would never be enough. I tried this job. What's next? What I can do? Maybe like a different field. So I don't know. Dream jobs are a bit.
I think
For me, it's
that's
a fixed
normal.
mentality.
That's actually normal, to feel this way.
Yeah.
Since you've reached, let's say your target or your goal, and then feeling that, okay, what's next? So you give this feeling to yourself that you want to try something else. So I think that's normal.
Definitely.
I hope so.
Yeah, I mean, talking about that, like in my own experience, working as a teacher is something very challenging. And it's very, let's say, one of the things that I've never, ever, ever in a million years thought that I would be in this position. Now I'm working as an HOD, but yet again, if you would ask me, let's say 10 years ago, are you going to be a teacher? The answer will always be no, never.
Wow.
But it was very, let's say, very nice to actually reach to a point realizing that it was meant to be in a way, but it wasn't the typical way of being a teacher. But you being part of many great students who actually needs your guidance, needs your, let's say, thoughts and ideas. I mean, you're talking about yourself, talking about having a goal and dream and then thinking about what's next. To me, this is what happens with my students, is that they study but they don't see the whole vision towards what's next and what's going to be beyond intermediate stage, since I teach intermediate. So what happens is I'm that, let's say, kind of inspiration that you can do this, you can do that. There are lots of potentials, there are lots of new studies and lots of great things. Comparing it between back then and nowadays, looking at towards how many great students that I managed to affect their own, let's say, choice and decision in choosing their own career was very great and beautiful. I mean, one of them was talking about being, like, I'm not sure about the profession, but she works in anesthetic, the one that gives the medic. Yes, and it was, and her mom was telling me is because she's diabetic, so she has that kind of, let's say, addiction to needles. And I was like, no, an injection. I was like, you know what? She chose something very rare, and she chose something very great, because we don't have lots of great, let's say, women, and especially Kuwaiti women,
That's
being
right.
specialized in the field. And then her mother was like, wow, you still give her this kind of guidance, though she graduated a long time ago. I was like, yes, because this is the right thing to do, is that choose something very rare, difficult, challenging, but let's say they need, especially women in the field. So seeing them was very beautiful. And yet again, if you ask me again, would you be a teacher? The answer will always be never.
Oh, wow.
But the only thing that satisfies me about this job is this kind of relationship, that kind of
Stays for life.
Yes, it stays for life. Having that great connection, being the teacher that no one's ever forget,
Yes.
is something very great.
Definitely. I
But
recently
never ever
interviewed a
would do it
teacher.
if I
Never, still.
And how was the interview?
No, it was interesting because you know how Hiba's talking about how her students still didn't forget her, like all these years later, same thing. As soon as I saw my teacher, I recognized her. I was very proud that I'm able to interview her. We're not in
No,
class
that's
anymore.
beautiful. Yeah.
Things have really changed.
Yeah.
So I understand what Hiba's saying, although this is a job she wouldn't do. Or if you ask her again, maybe it's something she's scared of, especially that she's shaping futures. But she's leaving such a strong impact, and I think that's amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, to be fair, I have a question. So if we were like talking about like dream jobs and everything, what were the steps for you guys to achieve them? I know like you never wanted to be a teacher, but you studied engineering. Was that like a goal of yours?
Well, that was something that I felt that was available at that time. you know, since medical field was not available because I had to study abroad, and that was, let's say, something wasn't on the table for my, let's say, part of, let's say, our time as well. But having that, especially when it comes into studying engineering, I mean, it was something that I wanted to achieve, but the specialty, the field itself was closed for me. So I was like, you know what, any kind of, let's say, major could accept me, any kind of college, I'm agreeing in. It was art department, and I went and transferred into art without knowing what actually subjects is actually there. And then they told me English is there. I was like, yeah, English should be fine. And then I discovered that studying English was the most difficult thing to do. You're a science student and then you're studying something in art, reading Shakespearean, stuff like that. It was very difficult. I mean, I majored in linguistics, which was something difficult for literature major, because you're dealing with phonetics, sound, lots of things that dealt with, let's say, more of, let's say, I would
like
have
the physics of the
yes,
language.
I was like a scientific field, which is something okay, but with literature, I mean, I had lots of D's. From being A student to D student, it was very difficult, but yet it was, this is how it shaped me, you know, this is what made me me when it comes into being part of it, yeah.
Well, how about this? We pin the conversation because it's getting really interesting. But we go for a quick break and we'll be right back to it.
Right. So I know we all go through pressure, and this is what Rita is actually facing, pressure from your job, having her phone all the time. Tell us about the kind of pressure that you actually face.
I think we have to be present all the time because we're in a lot of groups for work. There's a lot of updates on shooting times, scripts,
I mean,
you
like,
know.
especially when you're family and friends, they always tell you that, okay, leave your phone, focus with us, and you're like, no, there's something happening in the group work.
You need to know.
Yeah, and it needs to be like done now, right? Because you need to confirm the time. You need to look at the script sometimes. You need to, but I think the worst part is being online for my script. For example, like I'm, you know, gonna be on air in 2 minutes. I'm looking at the script and I'm online on the app, right? So my friends and my family think I'm ignoring them, and I'm like, no, I'm just trying to do my job.
Yeah, my friends, they're so pissed and mad at me for that reason. And I'm like, I'm not online. I am online, but I'm not online. You know what I mean? I'm work online.
There's a document I'm on. You know?
Really. And also, to be fair, for me, I really fold under pressure. I think it's maybe the lifestyle, and also I feel like if you have a certain routine, you would know when to deal with things. But because we don't really have a routine, that's why I panic. I go through it, I fall apart, I be crying sometimes.
You know, I can sometimes agree with you, Fawzia, but you know, for me, when I like feel the pressure the most is when it comes to like long working hours. I don't know if you guys can relate, but you know, being at the same spot for so long, and sometimes things go very slow. Sometimes you just, you know, achieve a lot of things at the same time and you feel so accomplished. But long working hours is so hectic for me. Like, I can shut down.
Definitely, especially with our job, you know, it's so many clothes change. So you have your entire house with you in the building, you know, you're walking in, like Hiba's walking in with a trolley. I have 700 bags on my arms. Like, it gets tiring, honestly. And there's a lot of pressure and a lot of expectation that come with it.
Yeah, you know, I really love pressure. Like if my job isn't full with pressure, I would feel that there's something missing, something wrong is gonna happen.
Empty.
Yeah, so I think I'm addicted to pressure. Though a lot of people would say that you're actually stressed and stuff like that. And when someone tells me that, I feel relieved. It's like, okay, I'm doing it right, you know? Since I'm in that kind of, let's say, mood where everyone thinks that don't stress, I don't want you to stress. It's like, yes, that means that I'm doing something great. Whether it's from my day job job or let's say night job, it's all the same. If it's not hectic and busy, I would immediately feel concerned. Like, is something wrong? Why am I not why am I not feeling that I'm under pressure? Like, there's something that's gonna happen, you know?
Definitely.
So yeah.
I think we're used to working under pressure.
Yeah.
So
So true.
my friends are always like, you do live for an hour, but we go to the office for 8. But I'm like, we're like that hour,
Yeah.
we are working every
Yes.
single second
Right.
in it. We are alert, we are aware, we are sitting in a certain
Yeah.
way, we're talking in a certain way, and someone's talking in my ear, I'm talking out of my mic, and I'm also listening to the guest, you know?
Right.
Yes,
That's
So-
like multitasking.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we are used to working under pressure. I think it's good, but sometimes pressure can be negative too.
Yeah.
If it's coming
True.
from our
Right.
surroundings, especially with our lifestyle, how busy everything is. We're always like running from a place to another. Sometimes we want family and friends to
Yeah.
be more understanding and maybe not put us as maybe into more pressure, right?
Right.
What do you
To be
think?
fair, the lifestyle is different because it's like we were comparing like in 9 to 5 or like from 7 to 2
Yeah.
Regular
to like
hours.
regular hours to
Yeah.
our kind of job. So our kind of job doesn't really have a fixed hour. So you can be working for 8, 10, 11 hours and then it's a completely different, like if it's like a nighttime or evening time,
Yeah.
right? So it's like the understanding. So what you can do about it is really explain it. They might not see it in the beginning,
Right.
but then within the time you're super late and you're exhausted and you've been like, and you have to communicate it as well.
Yeah.
For them to have like an idea, you put them in your life for them to
Yeah.
see what's going on. They might have an understanding.
Right.
But for any person, like a regular person who wouldn't know, they would watch you on TV, they wouldn't really know what kind of like schedule you have.
Exactly.
Yeah, so it is pressure. Like we need to regulate it, but also get people in our lives for them to understand, to give us the space that we need.
I mean, talking about that, like I've never had any pressure from my family or cousins or brother and even my husband. But once I had my daughters, this is where the pressure started to
The
hit.
real pressure.
The real
Heba.
pressure, like the family pressure. Like if you're talking about, let's say, family pressure, it actually occurred once I had my 2 daughters. Like coming here today, I was like telling her, Maria, I'm going to work. Please sit with your sister. Don't let her notice I'm not here. And she's like quite a little bit wanting to cry, but I want to come with you. And you know that kind of
Yes.
struggle,
Yes.
especially at that young of age. And then she was like, you know, it's okay, mommy. You can go to work. I know you're gonna come, and then we're gonna, let's say, sit together. Hopefully, you have a best day and stuff like that. So this is where I started to feel relieved. You know,
Yes.
within her age, accepting that having, let's say, working hours and going on and coming back to spend time with them is something very beautiful to see them realizing it. But to be honest, this is the moment where I'm starting to feel this kind of family pressure is within these years, you know, after being a mom.
Yes.
Rather than that, it was all easy peasy, like it's
Yes.
fine, I'll be late, I'll come back again, but no one is
Exactly.
gonna be, let's say, mad at me. But after having 2 daughters,
You know, Heba, I can really agree with you on that, you know, especially on this point being the kids being the most, let's say, source where you feel a lot of responsibility towards them. And then you have work and then managing your time, especially working, you know, for our work, we don't have specific hours here.
Right.
It's just, it's different every day, different, like, you know,
Definitely.
every week has a different schedule. So, but what I really like, Heba, is you actually explained it to her. You know, you told her that you'll be gone for work and then you'll come back. You know, you're gonna see her after all. So that's really, you know, something very nice to do. You know, I would like to actually do it with my kids once they're older. That's very sweet.
yeah.
I think it's
Yeah.
really important because both of you maybe experienced this kind of pressure from children. Me and Fawzia do not have that blessing or issue, you know, regardless. We're not dealing with that. So I think any pressure would come from our family, maybe our parents, siblings, even friends
Friends, yeah,
sometimes.
I mean,
Absolutely.
friends
Yeah.
would be the most, let's
Exactly.
say, the ones that gives you a very big pressure is
Yeah.
because they will immediately tell you, okay, like for instance, this has happened to me today. I was like they were like telling me, please give us your month schedule. I was like, month schedule? Like it's not really prepared. And then I was like, you know what? I'm busy from Sunday to Wednesday. I have shooting after work and stuff like that. So it was only Thursday, Friday, and maybe Saturday if we
Maybe.
wouldn't be taken from another program. And there she was like, And I told her, you know what, if you have, if anyone is not suitable with Thursday and Friday, because it's mostly gathering days, and I was like, you know what, you can meet up in any time, in any, let's say, weekdays, and I could, let's say, squeeze it in between the timing that I actually have. Even if spending 1 hour with you guys would be great, but yeah, that kind of friends pressure is really a big deal.
Definitely, definitely. I always experience that with my friends' birthdays, or for example, I have a lot of friends that, you know, live around the Gulf or even in Europe. So if they decide to visit all of a sudden, like for example, my friend is here from Bahrain waiting for me at home, right? So I'm stressing, like I want to be there, but also we have to do what we have to do. So
true.
I
But
think it's not
also-
our family as much as our friends.
It's so true, but also I feel like sometimes you get carried on with work so much.
Yeah.
To be fair, that we don't really balance our lives out, and it's kind of a bit impossible with the lifestyle that we're living. But we do need to find a way to balance it out for you to also breathe. Like, okay, work is on the side, your family and friends on the side, but you need time for yourself as well. Because like if you're not recharging, how are you going to perform?
Right,
Exactly.
right.
Yeah.
And
So
the thing is, I mean, Fawzia, adding towards what you said, is that we also talk about work with our family. If anything happens, or if you have an issue, or you're dealing with things, the topic would be with your friends or family is talking about work. And then they'll be like, you're talking about, and I was like, no, I'm not talking about, like, this is what happens with my husband. Like, if he wants to speak out, and I was like, you know what, this thing happened, that thing happened. I was like, okay, you're talking about work. And I was like, okay, then I'm not talking anything anymore. He's like, you can't talk only about work when we're sitting together. You can't talk about anything else. It's like, you feel you're really connected towards your job, that once you want to get socialized with anyone, the easiest thing for you to do is to talk about it and not talk
Exactly.
about
Yes,
anything
you know,
else.
Hiba, actually, I can relate on that. But you know, guys, let's go ahead and take a short break, and we'll be back.
So ladies, I feel like we all have amazing jobs, but I always want to help out the younger generation when it comes to achieving their goals or, you know, getting their dream job, because my cousins, for example, would always ask me at the gathering, like, how did you get there? How did you do it? How did you get the job you've always dreamed about? And for me, it was always like tiny steps working towards it. So for example, I knew what I wanted to do. I was lucky like that. A lot of people don't know. So I knew that, okay, that's fine. While I was in high school, I was doing an internship at the radio. I was also writing a column for the newspaper. I was trying to do as much as I can to get integrated in the media, we can say sector, and start meeting people, start learning. And I feel like with our job, learning anything in media is helpful, right? So I feel like just learning all of these things, meeting the right people, and then getting here. So that's how I kind of achieved my goals. What did you guys do?
I mean, when we're talking about my side of story, I would say having supportive family. Let's say, don't pressure your child when it comes into choosing their own profession. I mean, it's very nice to have a doctor and an engineer in the family, but once you see that this field is actually tiring your child, never think about names and having that kind of, you know, profession and a DR in the beginning or engineer in the beginning, because it's not going to be very useful if your child is not very accepting that kind of job, because in the end, these jobs have responsibilities and also risky at the same time. But yet again, even when it comes into the youth, never down yourself. Always remember that you could achieve something. If you're not able to do this today, you could do it tomorrow. Like, I've always had this, as you just said, lots of your friends, for instance, the ones who studied again, talking about that, I've always thought, you know what, it's not meant to be today, it's going to be meant to be for the future. I could study engineering now and just have it being there aside, whether to use it for a side job or to use it in a different career. Since you're one who always like to have new jobs, this could be something very also helpful. As you could also have a diploma if you don't want to have a bachelor. Never think that if I didn't have that major now, I can't have it tomorrow. It's always there, it's always going to be. today it's hard, tomorrow it's going to be easier. So always believe in yourself.
Yes, definitely. I can agree with you on that. And also, having a supportive family that supports whatever major or whatever, let's say, thing you decided to go ahead and study or pursue or any job, that's really, that for me at least, that's like, this is the support system. Like, this is number one. This is all I need. Having a supportive family that believes in you and whatever you choose. Like Hiba said, no need for the doctor or no need for, actual names, before your actual name. Especially, being in a, let's say, living in a place where this is something very important to people, and coming back from a family that's accepting to whatever I decide to study or choose, that itself can be very relieving and can be very, you can be just confident in what you actually chose.
I totally agree with you.
Honestly, if you don't have a supportive family, no, my family is supportive, but I know a lot of people, they don't have a supportive family.
Right.
My thing, what I've done is have a strong plan. Try to understand what you want as a person and write it down. See the steps. If you don't know the steps, then look at people who have that already.
Yes.
You can watch interviews, you can watch stories, hear about them, so you can have an understanding of what they did, their path, so that you can incorporate it in your life. And also try to listen to the elders as much as you can. So for me, I didn't want to stay in a certain job. I wanted to leave it. But my professor, she told me, you rush things. You don't want to rush them. Enjoy what you're in right now. Try to understand it, learn, and then whenever it's the right time, you would know. And honestly, the minute I decided to leave, I had an opportunity. And that's why I was like, I think I'm gonna stay for an extra hour, or like an extra year or something. So it's just take your opportunities as well. Whatever is offered to you, take it. Enjoy it. Try, even if it's for free, like an internship or something. Just go for it. Build a community, meet people, talk to people. Even in university life, talk to the people around, because we're very busy studying and leaving. But I think that's the most important thing for me, and that what really worked out for me.
Completely agree with you. Honestly, like just going to classes and lectures were really helpful, but everything else that we learned at university, just from university life, for example, I studied abroad, so it was a bit different having that kind of independence, having to deal with my own apartment. So you think that, you're gonna be going out with your friends all the time, but then you realize you need to run home because you have responsibilities, you don't have your mom and family to help. So you do learn a lot at university.
No ready meals. Everything which should be prepared.
Exactly.
I mean, one of the things that I would really advise is never ever listen to your colleagues at college, especially when it comes into grades. Because I do remember one of the colleagues that I had, it was in a mathematics calculus B subject, and I remember I needed to, well, actually I didn't need even to have a B. If I had a C, I would have majored easily. But she really confused me, and she told me that if you don't have an A in this subject, you're not going to be able to major. And I was really terrified, and I didn't even ask my professor when it comes into my GPA and everything alongside to it. So I immediately took an FA. And I remember the professor was calling my mom. It was very terrifying because I knew that professor wouldn't call your parents for you to come. And I was like, and my mom was like calling me, is like, you got an F? And I was like, how did you know that? I told my mom I don't have any kind of exams, and she was like, she told me to tell you to come immediately to her office in order for you to take the exam. And I was very terrified. Didn't do it, and I got an FA, and it really dropped my GPA, though I had a higher mark again. So one of the things that I really emphasize on is always ask your professors, ask the ones who are very, let's say, into the point to present you with the right information. Never listen to your colleagues, or even when it comes into their own experience, because yet again, they're also at your age and they don't know what's going on. Even if there's different kind of, let's say, years between you guys, but still, keep in mind to always know the right information from the right source.
Definitely. I think that's really important. And I love that we shared our experience when it came to our careers and university and all of that. But ladies, I feel like it's getting really late. I'll definitely see you another day.
Yeah, 100%. Now you can answer your phone call.
I think so. That's what I was thinking.